All right, boys, we are going to go through and make something look 10 times, 50 times, 100 times better. So many of these apps that we see out here are just garbage, just trash, just absolute eyesores, just monotony, just repetitive, horrible, blank, type of stuff that makes you shudder. And we're going to make stuff look better. We're going to make stuff look better while maintaining the principles of good design in mind. So I'm going to pull up something that we're going to be working on today. It is a client that is in one phase. It potentially can move into another phase of a complete redesign. Right now, we're just doing an audit just to understand who they are. And we're going to move into a full build if they say yes. So what I want to do is create a little bit of a mock-up for this client to see what we can design for them in a way that makes it easy for them to be excited. Okay, so this is Softr. Softr, if you don't know, is a drag and drop builder that has recently moved more into the vibe coding space by allowing some kind of a chat widget, essentially. So you can chat with it and then build some stuff out. But originally it's a drag and drop where you have certain tables and modals and things that you can drag over and create an interface. But the problem with it, in my opinion, is that it just has this very contained look that I don't like at all personally. And I don't think that most people are going to find useful once they expand beyond things like the basics of a project tracker, a task tracker, a calendar, or even something above that. This to me is the key thing with Softr. It has a lot of stuff that is just not aligned. It's not clean. At the end of the day, this feels unbalanced to me. The image might need to be bigger in this case. And this one might need to be bigger in this case. And a specific field might need to be hidden unless you really want to go through it. But the way that it's laid out, the way that it functions, Softr just kind of puts everything there at once. And it makes it, again, just ugly, to be frank with you, and also just uncustomizable. And see, these small things like the lack of alignment here and here really do bug me. And they really should bug you, right? It's not wrong to be bugged by this stuff because this is very normal to want something to be clean and clear and simple. And if small things like this can't be aligned, it's just what are we doing here, guys? We're not even building to our full capability. Okay. So the three big things are going to be work orders, daily rounds, and asset management. Asset management is in a different section, but those are the big three use cases for this app. And so those are the big three screens or tables or functions that we're going to focus on. So I'm just going to take screenshots of those so we can kind of get the basic idea, and then we'll build out from there. Daily rounds is pretty straightforward. It's what people have to do on a daily basis. So it's basically a checklist or a to-do list, and you can see some of the specifics that they have there. So we're going to save that. Work orders are work orders. So when something needs to be fixed or something like that, they're going to go ahead and submit a work order, and then the individual maintenance person is going to look at that, and they are going to see what they need to do. So I can't find the asset management page, and that's part of the problem with something like this is that when it's so overbuilt, look at all these pages and stuff, when it's so overbuilt and disorganized, you just can't find things, and that's a problem, right? A good kind of idea that you can think about is a home, right? When you walk into a home, you should know kind of the floor plan so you know where the bedroom is, where the bathroom is, where the kitchen is, and all that stuff. And as soon as you have a complex system, you might not even realize that there's a 15th bathroom in this mansion and it's not used, right? And so that's what happens a lot of times with builds when people are kind of undisciplined about the pages and features. Things just bloat up and get expanded, and then you end up with a lot of things that aren't used but do actually cost you maintenance, right? Imagine the AC. The AC has to go and cool off the entire home, and if you have square footage that isn't being used, it's still affecting that price. And with code bases, it's kind of similar because there may be one thing or a couple of things that are kind of interrelated with other parts of the whole code. And then that thing that you can't find is actually the problem source. And so you want to remove as much surface area as you can, just focusing on the main features and making sure that you build those out to be very, very useful, and then just cut the fat. That is 100% probably the biggest problem that I see in this space. Okay, so we have our reference material with these screenshots. We're going to go ahead and set up Claude Design with a new project name. We're just going to go facility redo. We're going to go create. And here we are with a brand new thing. Claude Design has been pretty fun. I've used it for very, very small mockups and use cases. I haven't used it for entire builds or things like that. And so the best use case I found for it has been like mockups, landing pages, and just like initial impressions of something that you want to sell for people. I'm in Cursor all day long, so that's what I use if I actually want to build out the code and also mess with UI on that. It does a pretty good job. But Claude Design has been pretty cool to create some stuff on a quick basis, and it's included in my plan, so I might as well go ahead and use it. So we're going to add some screenshots here, and we're going to go ahead and start with the main one, and we're going to do one thing at a time. And this main screenshot is going to be what we're building out, and we're going to really detail this out with a vocal prompt here. We're going to be building 3 separate pages. One page is going to be the landing page, which is what we're working on now. I'll detail the other ones next. This landing page is going to be a home page for maintenance operators at water treatment facilities to log into and see 3 main things. One is going to be work orders, one is going to be daily rounds, and another one is going to be asset management. So that's our initial prompt, just giving the overall look at this. One small thing I need to do is make sure that I have this changed from 3 to 4. This is not 2. This is 2. This is 3. And this is 4. I'm going to add a little bit more to talk about the actual style. And with anything like this, I found it's useful to not talk in terms of like subjective feelings. You don't want to say necessarily things like a certain mood or like a feel or anything like that. You want to get more specific to what the camera in this case sees or what the user sees, right? If you're like a cinematographer, you're talking very clearly there's subject A and there's subject B and the eye line is this way. You're not talking about there's an interaction or he looks at her softly, right? You want to have more specific than that. So with this, it's kind of similar thing. With product photography, UGC, or anything like that, it's very important to do that. With stuff like this, it's a little easier to kind of stick with the actual practical details. But as a reminder, make sure you stick with those sorts of things in your prompt. Design this home page, landing page, in a light mode with 4 major categories, a simple welcome message, and the ability to see some basics as far as dashboard metrics. Use rounded corners and different colored buttons for each of the 3 options. Don't use a lot of filler text, just simple headlines and subheadlines. Don't use a lot of icons, and make the entire color scheme agree with a blue, navy, white, and cream color scheme. We're going to let this fly. We're going to see what it does, and we're going to make some adjustments, and then we're going to build out the other pages according to what this thing does to us here. Ooh, ooh, boys and girls, look at this. Who's James? I don't even know James, but it looks so much cleaner. It looks so much better. Oh my God, this is fucking so much better, guys. We're going to go ahead and clean this up just a touch to make sure that we're not putting in things that are a little too far. We don't want to overdo what we're trying to do here. Meaning, like, a lot of these things, there's like 6 out of 8 today, 2 pending, 14 rounds, is stuff that without context, Claude seems to add in while making a lot of assumptions. And some of this data we can't actually get from the actual client. So we don't want to put it in there because we don't want to have too many promises that we can't fulfill on, right? At the end of the day, whenever you show someone a mockup, they do take that and kind of have that as like their anchor in their mind of what can be done. But you want to make sure that the initial mockup shows a good sense of the potential of what it could be without promising too much, right? So like here, for instance, we have a weather implication, and this would require an API for a weather service. And again, it's not a huge lift for us as builders, but it does kind of put you in a hole where now, they saw that. So now I thought that was included. And so you have this conversation and stuff, and it just makes it a little messier. So why not just remove that and make things a lot simpler? How I do the next pass, like the second, third, and fourth pass after the initial delivery of the product screen, is to have my transcription service on while I'm just going through and specifically labeling things as I go through. Okay, great start. Let's remove the right-hand square with the label facility and status. In the work orders square or the 01-workspace square, remove the third metric, the 5 mine. Also remove the top right icon. Do the same thing for 02 workspace and 03 workspace, removing the third metric, the 14 routes and 4 watch respectively, and also remove the top right icon. In 04 reference facility overview, remove all 3 metrics and the top right icon. So I'm going to pause there because that might be a lot for it to understand, and because it's kind of a lot of words, me going back and forth. I just want to make sure that it does that so that we're not over convoluting it with different steps to do, and we can just clean things up and make sure that we move on to the next critique in a much smoother fashion. I'm gonna grab one more water while this thing runs. Woo! So much better. It cleaned up a lot of things. It removed this badge here that removes us from the promise of having weather. It has removed some of these metrics, or removed the icons that was just making things a little too messy. And to be honest with you, I can remove these headers here that don't really add anything, right? At the end of the day, I'm always focused on cutting, trimming fat, removing stuff, removing the bloat. And a lot of that stuff, like, you just kind of have to do it. It's like you just kind of have to have the balls to do it. And remember that you can always add things back, but it's usually better to cut more things than it is to keep certain things. That being said, we're going to go through here one more time and have one final pass. And I'm pretty happy with this like this. In the boxes underneath, where do you want to go? Remove 01 workspace, 02 workspace, 03 workspace, and 04 reference. Remove those headlines. Also remove the text. Pick a workspace to begin your shift. Remove the main subheadline, starting with 3 open work orders. Okay, so those are the final pieces of cleanup for something like this. And then we're gonna move into the other pages based off of what this looks like. And again, remember, what I'm trying to do is just get this to a point where it's a mock-up and it's not an entirely built out prototype where you can click on things and the functionality is there. We just want to have a general idea of what we could do and a visual anchor of what we believe as a company, as product builders and engineers, that they should look forward to, right? We want to excite the customer. We want to excite them to help them feel like, oh man, this could be 10 times, cleaner and cooler and more presentable, right? It's like a makeover, right? You want someone to see photos of someone wearing the clothes that we're suggesting for them. And then we want them to imagine themselves in those clothes, right? So with a lot of this visual stuff, again, it's about making sure you have just enough for them to be excited about without too much overpromising, and making sure that you have the ability to build what you actually display. So I just put a simple prompt, say, let's move on to the next page, build out work orders, same design principles. Man, this is so cool. I don't even know what I was going to say. Sorry. So work orders, here we are. This is cool, but I don't think people are actually going to use this. And I don't want to make it kind of a requirement. I just want to have like a small description, and then we want to start work. And then, and that's probably the next screen to basically start the work, and then to be able to check it off and then call it like done, right? This stuff here, I don't know if it needs to be this specific once again. I think that having it be simpler, better, saves us space and allows for things to be just quickly breeze through. All right. So big thing here, total open is good. High priority, overdue, assigned to me, completed today. The goal is just to have 3 or 4 along the top line and be able to remove this line here to save some space, and then also to just make it overall cleaner. Looking good. Let's change the 5 main metrics. Keep total open, but remove the 12 this week, or excuse me, remove this week, remove the assigned to me, remove the overdue. So the last remaining one should be total open, high priority, and completed today. Also, in the opened work order, remove the task checklist and remove the badge of high priority and open. Oh, I get excited by this stuff, yo. I do get excited by this stuff. I think it's so cool to look at like the improvements. Think about where we started with this, guys. Think about where we started with this. Look at this. Let me open this up for you. Let me just show you. Let me remind you what we were working with, okay? We were working with this, guys. Look at this. It's got colors that don't even make sense together. It's got this details badge that has like a bunch of random fucking notes there that I don't like. Overall, these fields are good to know, and the image is something we might populate in later. But right now, I think this is a huge improvement, right? Just the overall look and feel and cleanliness to it, the ability to add a new work order, all that stuff, just so much better, so much better. So let's move on. Daily rounds is the next page. If they're anything like the last ones, I'm going to be making some noises. Ah! Look at this. Look at this. Oh my goodness. 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 Oh my god. Let's see. Okay. So we're running into the same issue of just assumptions made on the type of information as to what we're building based off of. So let me go ahead and look at the daily rounds chart. And here we go. So what I'm going to do now is actually give it that image that I forgot to upload because I want it to go a little bit closer. And from what I can tell, it's like the main purpose is just like a checklist, just to make sure that things are done. It's not doing so much like the routes. It's not doing so much like effluent monitoring and stuff like that. We're just going to make it a little simpler. So let's give it the voice note here. Simplify the terms and sections based on the screenshot that I showed you. This should function a little bit more like a simple task manager and not so structured in terms of routes and schedules and things like that. It should be almost a simple task manager for someone to understand what they need to do as far as the daily small actions and how much they got done. Don't include the on-time rate. Don't include the readings logged. Just do the rounds today. And if there's other metrics that make sense, feel free to add them in. Sometimes it's good to give this, in this case, Claude Design or any sort of mock-up thing that you have free reign to go ahead and add different components and metrics and stuff like that. And other times you have to end up, pulling it back in, reeling it back in, pruning things, making things different, and then doing it kind of your own way. And this is part of the process, right? Kind of overdoing it and then pulling back and then doing a different look and then pulling back to center and then just go ahead and making sure that you prune and simplify and clean it up and make it good, right? You start with a lot of clay and then you chip away the clay that doesn't make any sense. So this is very normal. This is just how the process goes. Oh! Not bad, not bad. Daily rounds looking a little bit better. So here we go. We have the stuff here. I don't like that it did these colors. I really don't like these colors and these emojis and bullshit that comes with it. I don't like that it went a little too close to the original design. Actually wanted to move away from the design. So here we're going to make sure that things are fixed up and this is just a whole lot better. All right. One last pass and we're moving to the final page. Remove the to-do box, remove the out-of-spec box, keep the progress bar. In the to-do examples, the normal OK should be reduced to no emoji. The text should simply be normal. The out-of-spec box should not have the exclamation point icon, and the out-of-spec should be black. The normal should be blue. Also remove the badge that says either complete, out of spec, or to do, and remove the text above that badge. Actually, move that text to be underneath the main title. All right, fingers crossed with this one last pass that things are good and we can move on to the next page. Okay, much better. I like how this looks, a little cleaner. Yes. This is what you want, guys. This is what you want. You want stuff that looks good. It has all the relevant information and it doesn't complicate things too much. Okay. I really like this. We're going to move on to the last page here. Okay. So instead of asset management, we're going to do basically a breakdown of one facility. This screen here shows you what they currently have. It is an image as well as a bunch of details as far as the facility and what it does, what it doesn't do, and some other stuff that's very important to the water treatment space. But again, it looks like not great in my opinion. So what I want to do is have these pages or a page per facility with the history of the work orders attached, the daily rounds attached, and things like that. That can be referred to with a lot more style and a lot more of a good, clean look. All right. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a couple of screenshots here. One screenshot, save. Two screenshot, save. And three screenshot, save. Instead of the last page being an asset management, we're going to do an example of one specific facility breakdown. I'm attaching images of what it looks like now. The main sections are going to be an image in the top left. We're going to have the quick facts on the top right. Then down below is going to be a history of work orders and rounds that are related to this. You can populate with fake data for now, just to get the feel. Match the design system of the previous screens. So that's our prompt. We're going to let that populate, and then we're going to add in the 3 different screenshots that we did. Okay. Yeah, I like this. So we're going to do something a bit, again, more simplification, keeping things aligned and making sure we're not bringing over the bad design principles into new design. So let's do some things here. Remove the map under facility characteristics. Maintain the same font used in items like year opened across all fields within facility characteristics. Remove any blue font coloring. Also remove the badge that says North Coast. For facility description, keep as is, but make sure you format the bullets to have line breaks. For activity at this facility, remove the left-hand vertical color icon, keep the badge, and everything else. And there you go. Again, this should probably bring us to a nice, clean stopping point. It's just so hilarious to me how we did this in basically 50 minutes for a facelift that is going to be probably, in my humble opinion, 50 times better than the original idea. And it doesn't take long, right? There is a little bit of design thinking and principles that are like inherent to me now. There's a lot of stuff through my experience in graphic design, website design, and UX design that I've kind of put together where I can know how to call it out. I can know how to describe it. And that is like the missing component in a lot of these things, like the lovables and bolts and stuff like that. If you allow them to just design whatever they feel, you're going to end up with some stuff that's a little convoluted and whatnot. And you might not just see exactly what I'm seeing, but it does make a difference if you can get this stuff right. So I would urge you to spend some time learning about design language or user experience language and just being able to describe your vision a lot simpler and getting down to the granular details. It really does help being able to describe these things to these builders and tools. At the end of the day, they are incredible tools if you know how to prompt them and use them the right way. Always remember that these things fundamentally are robots or machines, and machines are very good at taking direct orders, but bad or not as good as interpreting orders. One last thing here, a couple of notes. On the top ribbon where it's home, assets, and then the name of the facility, remove assets. Under facility characteristics, make it a 3-item row, a 2-item row, and then a 2-item row. The last 2 items should be year opened and service area. Couple of quick notes just to soothe my OCD, and we should be good. Okay. So there are some things about this that I could kind of nitpick and tweak a little bit, like specifically this layout here. I could add a line break here, and then just for the logic, I could combine the primary receiving water to the other receiving waters. But I think it's good enough for now. I'm going to stop tweaking it because I could be here all day. I do enjoy this part of the process, so it's something that kind of pulls me in. With that being said, just to remind y'all and to wrap this up, you can see the huge growth that we have had here, guys. So this is where we started for the main home screen, which to me almost just reads kind of silly, cartoonish. And I think if you go to this landing page, you can see a lot more professionalism while still having a light feel to it with these colors and like the rounded edges and stuff like that. I think it still has a nice light feel to it that you're probably enjoying here without the kind of iconography that just reads of, in my opinion, low-level builds. The second screen is going to be the daily rounds. And from my understanding with conversations with the owner, this is one of the most used screens. So this was obviously important to get right. And we took this as an understanding, or we took this as a map of all the specific fields And you can see here that we had basically two operations: a to-do list that says if something is normal in an okay range or out of spec. And so what we built was this over here, the ability to see the same thing as far as normal and out of spec simple buttons with these sorts of ideas here. But we also have this status bar, these key metrics here, and just an overall better, cleaner look. Another big component was work orders, basically stuff that needed to be done by maintenance. And this is where a lot more depth is going to be necessary to describe the facility, the problem, and then potentially the solution and fix. So what we created was something that had, again, some key metrics up top, the ability to see everything at a glance, what was by high priority, medium priority, and low priority, and then the ability to see the full description of one specific work order. And then last but not least was the individual facility characteristics. We had a map showing that, and the image. We have this here, which is going to be the description and those sorts of things. And then we have all these details of one specific facility. I went ahead and designed that here, so you can see all the specifics in a nice clean way with the ability to have a nice full description, as well as the history of what work orders and what rounds were completed on this facility. So that way you're not just looking at information at this in terms of like looking up some long held information like when did it open or service area, but you can also see a full report. So if you want, you can basically export this to the specific facility if you're the manager there, and then give them a report of all the things that they've seen. And it looks clean, it looks good, and it has the ability to kind of show off what you can do. So as a reminder, this stuff does actually have an effect on user perception. This is not just because I like to make things pretty or good looking or sexy. It actually does have a principle behind it. That principle is called the aesthetic usability effect. Essentially, if something is aesthetic and good looking, people will perceive it as easier to use. And you know this if you know anything about industrial design, or even if you're just a basic user of things. If you know the company Dyson, they're basically world renowned for applying this principle rigorously. They design things that are clean and simple. Also, if you're into ergonomics at all with your workspace, if you like a good mouse or keyboard or desk setup, you know the importance of setting things up so that it's comfortable for you to work at all day long. And again, it's no difference when designing user interfaces. You want to make sure that you stay away from slop and bloat, and that you focus on things that are clean, simple, get the job done, and look good while doing that. That's the magic formula, right? If you as an individual can be a person that's useful and sexy, it's going to be hard to say no to you. Subscribe to the channel or hop into my school if you want to learn more about this stuff like this. Otherwise, have a good day. Happy designing. Talk to y'all later.